Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new live episode of He Said, He Said, He Said. A look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and welcome to our Friday, June the 6th show, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate you guys joining us. Aside from it being, my birthday month, June is also Black Music Month, and we are here this month to celebrate all month long. And we've got some exciting guests lined up who will not only be joining us for Real Talk, but will also bless us with some live performances right here on the show. These are new artists. Some of them you may have heard of before, but we wanted to tap into our new artists who are out there. So trust me, you don't want to miss a single Friday. And that's not all. June is also World Pride 2025, ladies and gentlemen, right here in Washington, D.C. The city is absolutely buzzing. When I say buzzing, take my word for it. Events are happening all over town. Major artists are hitting the stage, and the energy is electric. If you can imagine to keep up with everything going on this weekend, you deserve a medal. And last night, I'm telling you, I'm running on some limited fuel. I got the opportunity to see the iconic Grace Jones last night, who just turned 77 years old. And she was with the style maven Janelle Monáe in concert at the Anthem. It was a brilliant concert. Both of these artists were in, great voice. And it was just really, really good to see them. I've never seen Janelle Monáe. And the last time I saw Grace Jones, you guys, was 42 years ago. Okay? So she's still kicking, and so am I. All right. Now, look, if you happen to be in New York, anytime soon, make sure you stop by the Metropolitan Museum, where the Dandy exhibit it has just opened, and it's all about Black men's fashion. Bold, brilliant, beautiful. It is a visual feast, and yes, it is a whole spectacle. So please make plans to visit that. And speaking of New York, this Sunday, June the 8th, it is time for the Tony Awards, and guess who's hosting? None other than Cynthia Erivo. After a whirlwind year of accolades and the release of her stunning sophomore album, she's bringing all the magic to the Tony stage. And later in the show, we will talk a little bit about some of the drama that's going on in Broadway, including the feud involving Patti LuPone. Oh yes, we're going to go there tonight. And before I bring out the guys, let me touch on one so-called thing that's really been bugging me the last couple of days. This Trump must fall out. Now look, I'm going to be straight to the point with this. I think it's all a gimmick. I think it's a distraction. I don't believe the hype, because every time these two start squabbling about something publicly, it feels like smoke and mirrors to me, honestly. But my gut is telling me that there's something else going on behind the scenes. And that's what we really need to be paying attention to. We don't let the media distract us with all this foolery, these kids playing around and acting. No, something else is brewing and is coming, and these two are behind it. But again, that is just me, and I had to get that off my mind tonight. So again, welcome to our show. And I don't do what I do unless I have these guys with me. So let's get on with the chat. Gentlemen.
Hello, good evening.
What's up? Happy Pride Month, brother. Happy World Pride to you, brother.
Happy World Pride. I'm gonna ask our producer to just I gotta show you all something. Can I be center screen for a moment? Because I want to show you guys something that I made myself. Okay. See that right there, over there? See
the flag?
See my flag and my makeshift World Pride? You see that? I made that myself. Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Excellent. You have the flag. You have the progressive flag that includes both people of color and transgender community representation. We're liking that. I have a similar, I don't know if you guys can see my little heart.
I did.
It's very similar to the flag there. You can see that. It's progressive. It's a
You
progressive
got on bracelets too.
You said what?
You got on bracelets too.
I do have on bracelets that say pride and love is love.
Oh, you're so happy.
I'm feeling kind of gay tonight, I guess.
You're feeling kind of gay. Can we speak to some of our viewers before we get, because y'all got me started already. Hey, Michelle, thank you for joining the show tonight. Michelle Bowie and Michelle Sims. Thank you all.
Meech and love Michelle.
Rodney E is here. Troy Patterson is here. My brother, miss you. Haven't seen you in a while. Thank you for being here tonight. Michelle says, I agree with Alvin. It is all fake because something is definitely brewing. You know it is.
We know, Meech. We agree.
You know it is.
Smoke and mirrors. That's what it's all about.
You know.
It's a proxy war. That's what they want.
It's something stinks.
You said what, Sean?
They want a proxy war with Iran.
And I also think that they're trying to distract people from really realizing that the number of people who will potentially lose health benefits and all, like, there's some very serious stuff at stake. Yeah. And they figure if they can have people talking about this argument, they're not going to be talking about people who would be losing Medicare, or children who wouldn't be fed, or people who wouldn't receive assistance for energy costs and things like all that stuff that's in there. And even people saying they didn't even read the bill before they voted on it. Like, so yeah, there's some other stuff.
I mean, a young man lost his life because he could not afford his asthma medicine.
And that's the reality of what is the potential impact of passing this not beautiful bill. And so I agree with you, Alvin. I don't believe it as much as it is. I think it's a distract. They are masterful at smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Something is coming and I don't like it. Well, again, I'm glad to see you guys. I tell you, always a pleasure seeing you guys when you come on. Ladies and gentlemen, Sean, Bobby, and I decided to do something for the chat. And we definitely want you to weigh in, because if we feel this way about it, then we know you feel this way about it. So tonight, we're going to have a dialogue about Representative Jasmine Crockett, who has gained prominence for her unique blend of well-placed one-liners and well-timed clashes with some of Congress's most notable conservatives. We have selected 5 discussion provoking statements for our All Things Crockett segment that can help us explore opinions and spark conversation around Jasmine Crockett's rise within the Democratic Party and our thoughts about her and her political future. Because to be honest, I'm not sure that everybody in the Democratic Party is Team Crockett.
In fact, we know that not to be true.
Huh?
We know that to be true.
Yeah, but I also think that I'm glad that we decided that we're going to have a conversation. We picked some questions that we want our viewers to weigh in on. Hey, Herbert, how you doing? Luscious, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Well, I'm gonna get us started in this discussion, and we want to first look at. We know that Jasmine Crockett is known for her bold style and sharp critiques of Trump and other political figures, and it's won her some attention, both good and bad. But the question that we're going to start off tonight thinking about is, does it translate into trust and the support needed to lead what she's most recently being considered for, leading the House Oversight Committee, which is a huge and important committee in terms of keeping some checks and balances on a variety of things. And so the reality of it is, given the way that she engages, there are a lot of people who would not like her to be in that position because they know how she's going to come for people. So there, for some, is a question of style versus substance. We know that she is qualified. She often talks about her pedigree, her education, in comparison to what she refers to as mediocre white men, which she says that without hesitation. So the question is style versus substance in terms of the perception that others have about her and her ability to lead. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna let Sean go because I can see it in your spirit. His shoulders are shaking. I see it. I see it. Okay, I'm sorry, Sean. You go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Well, let me start with this because this kind of ties into what I was going to say also about Jasmine Crockett. I'm going to start by reading the mission statement of the Committee of Oversight and Governance. So it says here, our mission statement is to ensure the efficiency, the effectiveness, and accountability of the federal government and all its agencies. We provide check and balance on the role and power of Washington and a voice for the American people. That's the mission statement of the Oversight Committee. Dissect that first,
Okay.
and then let's discuss style versus leadership, because I have a lot more to say after hearing what you all have to say.
Well, I'm gonna say, okay, style. Looking at what we're working with right now, there is no style there. There is no style, and I think the in terms of style,
Mm-hmm.
she's bringing something that other Democrats are not, and I think her style of standing up to, speaking directly to, confronting you is something that's needed. And it shows that there's somebody there that has some oomph about them. And so I love her for that. There's nothing worse than fearing a smart, Black, educated woman.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
I think I appreciate her style, and I'll stop there. And hold on. Raw Health said overall, it's a style that everyone is presenting, because decorum and propriety, especially in the political arena, is out the door. Amen.
Gone.
Amen. So she has to be this way. Totally agree. Troy says there's value in having someone that calls out the devil, but it comes tiddling at windmills when there's no backing from the party. I love her style, and willingness to be a force is needed. Amen.
I'm loving the chiming in of our audience. We always appreciate having that fourth host, if you will, in terms of being able to chime in. As Sean kind of dissected it and talked about it, we talked about three things: efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability. And I think that she is up to the task of calling people on, like, whether it's her own research or her team that always has her with data, information. And I think that's what really bothers them, is that, she comes with an attitude and a sass about her, but it's also followed by facts and figures. And so she holds people accountable. And again, I think that there are those who shudder at the thought of her being in that position.
Amen.
Okay.
Amen.
Well, I'm going to be the spoiler, if you will. So we all know.
Imagine that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Always got to be one in the family, y'all.
Well, we know that she had a rapid rise to where she is now, and that she does want to lead this oversight committee. But let's backtrack for a second. She is a first-term Congresswoman. Okay, she's up for re-election in 2026. She is one of 4 Democrats who is vying for the seat. She's the only millennial who is among those 4. There's one who is a Gen Xer like myself, and that is Congressman Robert Garcia of California. And then we have 2 who are seniors in their 70s, and that is Kwasi Mfume of Maryland and Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts. So you have 2 senior people who are basically baby boomers who are vying for this position, and they have great experience. One cannot deny that Kwasi Mfume is not qualified or doesn't have the experience. Stephen Lynch, now he's older, of course, but you know how I feel about that generation needs to move aside for Gen X. But there's only one Gen Xer in this bid, and that is Robert Garcia. Okay, and now Obama didn't serve a full term, and he became president. So I'm not saying that Jasmine Crockett should wait her time, but is she qualified on a lot of things? Yes, but people have to understand the importance of this particular committee,
Mm-hmm.
first thing that she said was, "I'm going to impeach the orange man."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that she is right and ready for this position. I think that her leadership hasn't truly been tested as of yet. Like I said, therefore, I don't think that her rise justifies her being the chair or the ranking Democrat of this particular committee. Now, if the Democrats win back the House next year and she becomes chair, she doesn't have that leadership, I don't think.
So your question is, with the rapid rise of the party and her recent win over AOC for the oversight spot, is Jasmine Crockett the face Democrats need, or is it too much too soon? So your answer is too much too soon.
Well, AOC is not in the race for the chair.
Well, because she won over her.
I can't say for sure, but all I know is that there are only 4 Democrats who are vying for the ranking Democrat on this committee, and those are the 4 that I mentioned. AOC is not among the 4.
Okay. So that takes me to, and viewers, thank you. We're gonna get to your comments, because thank you for joining us in this conversation, because we knew you would. But I guess this leads into, from what you were saying, Sean, and with Jasmine Crockett being the youngest and representing a new generation of leadership in the Democratic Party, but is the broader Democratic base ready to rally behind her? I'm going to say I'm not getting a gut feeling that they are, but I'm getting, my gut is also telling me that they should, because it's too much old, bad, blood up in there. And I think that they need to twist it a bit, because the new guys that came up, like the Hakeem Jeffries and the Cory Bookers, if you will, they thought they could do it. And there's not much love for them either. But Jasmine Crockett is the only one who gets up in there. No one's doing it like her.
But that doesn't make her a leader.
It doesn't, but it darn sure makes her stand out from people who potentially could be.
It's interesting, because I think as a party, we've traditionally been a bit more about, okay, let's look at this person's pedigree, let's look at their experience, let's look at all those things, which I think are all completely appropriate. But it also flies in the face of another political party that seems to be like, to hear that someone's gardener was appointed as there is.
We're going to talk about that later. Okay, so okay,
I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm just using it as an example of there's such a contrast of what we put our political figures through, and those of us who are, and I don't want to make assumption that everybody supports the Democratic Party, but for those who do, there's a different level of scrutiny, I think, that people are put through in comparison to the other political party right now. That said, I still believe that people should go there and they should be qualified. I think that there are others of that 4 who have certainly paid their dues, one may say, and are positioned to have both, I think, the skill set and the experience in terms of, but I think the other thing is we have political representatives and folks in positions who stay too long. I think so I think that we're trying to find somebody who's a little bit in between, not someone necessarily who's the freshest on the block, but also not somebody who is about to, slip on a banana peel and call it a day.
And I agree with that. And, in business school, there's a rule that we were taught, and that is managers do things right, leaders do the right thing. Now, which is Jasmine Crockett? Is she a manager or is she a leader? Okay, and that's the question I pose to everyone to put onto Jasmine Crockett. Is she a manager? She does things right, or is she a leader? Does the right thing? Okay, and some people are one or the other, and some can be both. I don't think she is both.
Troy raises a very good point there. Most recently, did you see that, Alvin? Troy?
Let me see. I'm Troy. This one here.
Yeah.
Dems believe in waiting in line and earning based on time in the job, while GOP puts in for style versus substance. That's why we have many young conservative judges in lifetime positions. Correct. Many. I also saw a comment. Carrie is. I've never seen Carrie here, so welcome, Carrie, Mr.
Hey, Carrie, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for being here. He says we always get. Oh, I'm sorry. He said something else. Remember what she said. If this was a different time and we had different people in office, she wouldn't go for a position. But since we got so many people with no spines, you need to see some fight. I agree.
I can use that.
Yeah, a raw health says, Carrie had something else. We always get someone that doesn't hold people's feet to the fire. She comes with facts all day and all the beats that lies. I want to address something that Sean said, which is very true. You know, the difference between a leader and a manager. You know, that whole notion of a person being a born leader, I don't buy into that.
Same here.
I don't buy into it. So the fact that she cannot be a leader for some reason, for all of her background and her education and where she is right now, she's done something that makes me believe that she can be a leader. And that's where I'm coming from with that, and a good manager. But you know, you got to give. A lot of times, we don't want to give us an opportunity, you know, to do it. And that's another piece that kind of pinches me a little bit. So, okay, we got to keep moving. Okay.
Oh, I love them. They are going back and forth with one another. Okay. I'm loving all these comments.
So, Bobby, you were going to. We were talking about that
unapologetic approach. Exactly what the Democrats need, and what I'm hearing from some of our viewers tonight is that there is the feeling that that's what people need right now. That somebody who is willing to open their mouth and really go for it in the way that, I mean, when you listen to people like Marjorie Taylor Greene say some of the most insane things that she says, she still has indeed a following and so forth. And Jasmine is, we know about the broke back, you know, the butch body, broke, you know, all that. So she is there for her and ready to come in. So the question is, you know, is that style and that ability to speak up something that's still electable? Do we believe that there'll be support for that approach, that style?
Well, I'm going to say that Kamala Harris had that style about her. I think when she debated Donald Trump that night, that style came out, whether you knew who she was or not, that came out. But the fact that she was a smart, educated Black woman put her at odds, because believe me, the Black people rallied behind her. You saw it in the numbers, you saw it in the money, you know, you saw all that. But when it came to whether or not she was electable, there were people in the Democratic Party who didn't even want her to do it.
Right.
So she didn't have full support there because what? She was Black or not ready.
Well, it begs the question, you know, whether or not, whether you have the style and approach of a Jasmine Crockett, which is more aggressive, in your face, like ready to, you know, or Kamala, who was there but with a sense of, as you said, kind of like understated style and the way that she would do it. What we're seeing is that either way seems to be a problem for people.
Clearly, and it will be. But we got one more. We're gonna wrap this up because we knew you all were coming in the house tonight when we talked about everything Crockett. Everything Crockett.
And we should all acknowledge that one reason we're having this discussion is because of the passing of Congressman Jerry Connolly of Virginia. And so his passing opened this opportunity up for Jasmine Crockett and others. But we still have to ask the question about the depth and the diplomacy, you know, needed to maintain the stability and influence on this powerful committee. And I still, again, I think Jasmine Crockett is a very smart woman. I think that she has a lot of potential, and I think that she could be a great leader. But again, I think that where we are right now and what we're going to need, particularly if the Democrats win back the House, as what has been predicted, and we do want to be distracted by her going after solely, and I'm just using quotes here, the orange man, and he should be impeached. Okay, whoever has a committee should impeach him. But I want folks to understand that there is so much more that this committee does aside from impeachment of a president. Again, we're talking about every government agency under the federal government. Okay? Not just one agency, not just two agencies, but every agency in the federal government. Okay, and I don't think that she is quite there yet. I think that, and again, I don't know. I don't have all the answers, but again, I asked the question: manager versus leader. Is she both, or is she one or the other? And I think style is a distraction from real leadership.
Well, I believe that she has the potential and substance to be able to lead if given that opportunity. I have a great appreciation for her thoroughness around a lot of things, and her training and her energy. I just think unless we inject the Democratic Party with energy, not just strange energy, but energy, she has the intellectual capacity and the energy, I think, to run the race. I just think it's something that we're missing right now.
Well, before we go to our top stories, my closing remark on that is let her do it.
Okay.
Let her do it.
It can't be any worse than what we got up in there now.
It cannot. And viewers, thank you all. Michi said, this is why the Democratic Party, Michelle Bowie, my producer, I know we call her Michi when we're at home. This is why the Democratic Party is in the damn shambles they are in. They cannot get their stuff together. Absolutely. Robert said she is not afraid. I don't think she is afraid. And Carrie, we're going to end on your note. Mr. Excitement said, yes, Bobby. Okay. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here for Let's Get Newsy, and we got some top stories and some entertainment that we want to share with you all and give you our opinion on it. So let's roll. Let's have some top stories.
Well, okay. Again, this ties in very closely because we know that the Orange Man has sent an executive order to try to shut down the Job Corps. Okay, and now there has been a federal judge who has blocked that for right now, but it's almost kind of too late. So let me just say this. So the Job Corps, there are about 100 locations around the country, if you will, and including a lot of red states. And when he made this order, people were already in tears. Some young people, again, between the ages of 16 and 24, who are served by Job Corps, some of them already left. Some of them were receiving housing through Job Corps, and they now have no place to go. So again, Congress oversees Job Corps, not the White House. Okay, and again, and this is something that will fall under the Oversight Committee.
Yeah. Well, well. I'm in my Nene voice. I said what I said. That is my Nene Leaks voice.
Okay, I said what I said.
I'm gonna let that rest right there. So I hear you, my brother. I do.
There's a hearing June 17th where the judge he's asking folks in the Labor Department to show up in court to explain why they want to do this blanket shutting down of Job Corps. So we have what 10 days for this next hearing, but we'll see. But it's the Department of Labor, a federal agency that gets overseen by the Oversight Committee that Jasmine Crockett wants to be the head of. So there you have it.
Thank you, Sean.
This administration is really starting to wear me thin, because even when I think about so many of our top stories, we have been so political, and it's appropriate because we're discussing the things that I think are really important to people. But it's just wearing me. It's just like they've got so many things going right now that it's such a distraction. And among them, the whole question of the defunding of HBCUs. Right now, we all are aware of the whole issue of the funding of federal grants and so forth at Harvard, which is the high profile school right now that's facing it. But HBCUs are also really concerned about the whole issue of federal funding. Their leaders right now are currently walking a bit of a tightrope as these DEI attacks increase. Black colleges are pondering their future. Now, they've not faced the exact same pressures as some of the Ivy League institutions around that have been being quoted as being bastions of wokeness and anti-Semitism and so forth. But at the same time, in January, there was an executive order pausing grants and loans. And as you all know, that at many HBCUs, many students rely on things and support such as Pell Grants and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now, while that financial issue is one issue at stake, the other issue that they are concerned about, particularly at HBCUs, is the campaign against DEI and encouraging restrictions in terms of classroom curriculum and discussions. That they, in addition to this defunding or attaching funding to some of the decisions that they want to make around what's being taught and discussed in the classrooms. And you know, as a proud graduate of an HBCU, I will say that that's one of the things that I valued most about my experience was the depth and the breadth of our discussions and the things that we were able to study and the perspective from which we were able to study them, which was often left out of most primarily white institutions and so forth. So the whole notion that while the funding right now, the whole notion, people were thinking that there was going to be an immediate defunding. Right now, that's not the issue, but it is something that many schools are concerned about. And as a result of it, both states and alumni of the institutions are being asked to step up and to support financially.
Go ahead, Sean. Were you going to say something? I'm sorry.
I thought you were going to do your Nene voice again.
No. The good news here for me is it hasn't happened.
It hasn't happened yet. No,
it hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. So you know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to say it hasn't happened. Yeah.
But HBCUs have got to be prepared for it. There's got to be a plan B. They cannot wait until it happens.
That part. And as the HBCUs are sitting back and as they should be prepared, they can see that from another perspective. While the Trump administration has been involved in disputes regarding Harvard's funding, the university is also offering a range of free online courses. Now, this can help somebody, you all, reflecting on commitment to broad educational access separate from the immediate funding challenges. Now, this is what I know.
What you know?
I know that the Trump administration has taken steps to freeze and terminate federal grants and contracts with Harvard University, citing concerns about issues like anti-Semitism and diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. This includes freezing $2 billion in multi-year grants and contracts, and attempts to strip the school's ability to sponsor international student visas. Harvard has pushed back. And this is what some of these HBCUs can see, even those at Ivy League school, they have pushed back against these actions, filing lawsuits and arguing that the funding cuts are, retaliatory and detrimental to important research. But here is the silver lining for some folks while Harvard is going through all this. You can go on a free online course amidst all of this that's happening with Harvard. And they have courses that range in subjects from American government, constitutional foundation, ancient masterpieces and world literature, computer science, etc., data science. What I'm saying to you is use this opportunity to get a free education at Harvard University if you can swing it. Let them argue and do this. You almost made me curse. Let them do what they're doing, even though it's not right. But Harvard is taking steps that you said how HBCUs should be prepared to take, Bobby.
Right. Well, and Harvard is very fortunate that Harvard has more money than they will ever be able to spend, and alumni who are willing to spend a great deal of money to support them and keep them. And so they're well positioned to push back in ways that a lot of other institutions simply could not even dream.
Yeah, and I want to add to that on two fronts. With Harvard, with these courses, particularly with civics and government, you still have to pay for the certification. The courses are free, but if you want that documentation, you still have to pay for that. Okay? But it's not much money. But to you all's points regarding HBCUs, stuff is already happening. Just look at FAMU. Is it FMAU in Florida? the HBCU?
Florida, at Florida A&M.
Yeah. So there's a big controversy going on down there with the new head of that university. Okay, a woman who was put in by the far right. People are but no one's talking about that, and that's going to impact the education of those kids down there.
Absolutely.
And please forgive me on this, but I do know that when it comes to some funding for HBCUs, the federal government in the past has given funding to the states to give to the HBCUs. I do know that I think it was either Tennessee or Kentucky, they were withholding those funds from the HBCU. They have been doing it for years, and I should.
There is some level of defunding, but not to the degree.
But not to the degree that it could be.
Yeah, but this was happening before Trump, though.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
It was before Trump.
Well, again, HBCUs, be on the lookout because you know it's coming. And if you can get a free course from Harvard, we're telling you all, go right ahead if you got the time. For those of you who have 30 degrees on your wall, if you want another one, you can get a certificate for free from Howard. Okay, from Harvard. I'm just saying.
Well, Howard, Harvard, they often get.
Sorry, I stumbled. Okay. All right. What else is in our top story?
But yes, let's go to Doge. Okay. The Doge effect, if you will. And the housing inventory in DC is rising faster than the rest of the country. So this is a very interesting story. And let me give you some backdrop. So we all know that, like I mentioned earlier, that your boy Elon, of course, has parted ways with his boyfriend, the Orange Man. Okay. But that does not mean things are going to get better, because the man tapped to replace Elon Musk as the head of Doge is a gentleman by the name of Russell Voigt, who was one of the architects behind Project 2025, straight out of the Heritage Foundation. So things are not going to get better, but according to he's going to be pushing this stuff even further, and this is how it's going to affect the housing. It's already having an impact. So the housing market is slowing down. So there's more inventory currently than it was in the previous year. So for example, in DC, the condominium inventory is about 59.2%. And Troy, you're on. So hopefully you can chime in on this in terms of the data, in terms of what's actually happening in DC regarding the housing market. But the inventory is higher than the national average on DC at 59.2%. For single family homes, it's at 29.1%. Okay, now with new listings, condos are up 29% annually, and single-family homes are up 17%. Now, this is happening across the country, but in DC, it is happening at a faster rate than around the country. But so nationally, DC is outpacing the national rate, which is at 32.5% over the year when it comes to the inventory, and 9.6% when it comes to new listings. So this is real, y'all. Doge is having a big impact. Federal employees losing their jobs or quitting or not being able to return to DC to fill the positions that they say are no longer remote jobs. DC government is on a hiring freeze, although nobody was furloughed. So all these things that's trickling down from Doge is having an impact on the housing market in DC. So I know we got some real estate folks out there. Hopefully Troy can add to this. Well, and I have one more stat for you. The Washington Post and George Mason University did a poll, and in their poll, they said that 20% of people are thinking about leaving Washington, D.C.
Wow.
Well, Troy did chime in, and he said, but we're still low in inventory. In inventory in outlying areas, properties are still moving and prices have actually gone up, but it is getting scary. And Troy, thank you. Thank you for weighing in on that. Thank you. See, we got real estate agents in here. See, you know what? We pose a question and we got SMEs in here. Okay. Thank you, Troy.
Well, and I think people who are not from this area may not really understand the role that the government plays in the economy of this area. Like how many, like the creation of the Black middle class in this area is highly, highly credited to the government, for instance. And so the being the seat of the U.S. government positions us to really create a community of solid middle class to affluence in a way that a lot of other places have not necessarily had. And so when you've got someone coming in doing the devastation that they're doing now in terms of laying people off, some families even being two government families, depending on incomes and resources. And of course, we know that property values in the district are among the highest in the nation. And so you combine that with the people being let off and the cost of the properties being up. And as Sean was saying earlier, more properties than there are people to buy. And that's problematic.
Yeah, it's problematic all the way around. We're in some, troubled times, and and Troy, I'm not sure. Troy said, and government adjacent industries.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So I'm going to try one more story about this this current administration that just has us kind of like shaking our heads. Among many right now is that the recent appointment of a 22-year-old. Okay, so this guy right here was appointed by our current president. He's an ex-gardener and grocery store assistant to lead United States terror prevention. He is charged, and here it is. It says, appoints 22-year-old ex-gardener and grocery store assistant Thomas Fugate to lead U.S. terror prevention. It is beyond comprehension. Like
don't nobody say nothing about Jasmine Crockett ever.
Okay, ever. He was working as a neighborhood gardener just 5 years ago. 5 years ago, and most recently in a grocery store, as recent as August 23.
We should be afraid.
We should be very afraid. Because and that's why I've said a couple of times on the show, if it weren't so scary, it would be funny. But when you think about the fact that this man is leading the United States of America in these days where terrorism is very real and present in all nations, because there used to be a time when one would never think of terrorism within the United States. Like when that 9/11 situation happened, part of their ability to do it is that no one ever thought that anyone would have the balls big enough to attack Americans on American soil with American planes. Like it just was. So when you think about the reality of it, and you have a 22-year-old ex-gardener, ex-grocery store man leading the nation's efforts around this, that's why if it weren't so scary, it would be funny. But it is real. And so for me, it ain't funny.
Actually, I think it's more scary than you realize, because the biggest terrorists in this country are white men. And that is according to the Southern Poverty Association.
Exactly. That's not opinion.
Exactly. That's a huge point.
Yeah.
You just shot an arrow and hit bullseye.
Yeah. And that's not opinion. That is fact.
That's fact.
And when you got a 20-year-old white boy, do you think he's going to go after those white terrorists in this country?
First of all, he's 22 years old.
He's 22 years old, and again, let me one more time. Jasmine Crockett, they need to give her the gauntlet of the gavel now. Okay, when you look at this and what's happening. Well, look, thank you, Bobby. Look, to close out, our top stories, I thought I better bring some kudos to all of you. For those of you who don't understand voting at the local level, if you will, this is for you. Democratic Keyshawn Scott, 24 years old, became one of the youngest members of the South Carolina House of Representatives on Tuesday after beating his GOP opponent by large margins. Scott, who is now representing District 50 in Republican Senator Lindsey Graham's state, beat William Oden and nearly 71% of approximately 3,675 votes, according to the unofficial count from the State Election Commission. The Bishop Pole native is a first-generation college graduate from Central Carolina Technical College and the University of South Carolina. He ran his campaign prioritizing access healthcare, quality education, workforce empowerment, and expanding infrastructure. I just want to say kudos to you. Thank you. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. Okay, you got a vote at the local level. Look what he just did in Mr. Graham's country. See, Aral, don't do it. Don't do it.
Wrong health. Lady Graham.
Don't make me do it. Look what he did in Graham country. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Look, thank you. That was our top stories. Okay, we got some entertainment news for you guys. You guys ready to roll with it because
yes.
Y'all ain't heard nothing yet. Okay,
Yes.
y'all, we got some news for you guys today. Okay.
So as Alvin mentioned earlier, this week the Tony Awards are happening tomorrow, Sunday. Sunday night. The Tony Awards are hosted by Cynthia Erivo, who Alvin and I just adore, and Sean don't know what he is missing, but that's a whole other thing. That's why the show is called He Said, He Said, He Said. But anyway, there's a little bit of controversy that has been actually in some instances divided the Broadway community. Some of you may be aware of what I've called, when we were having our production meeting, I said to Alvin, if I do this story, I'm calling it Petty Patty Gets Popped. Okay, so Patti LuPone, as some of you know, who is a recognized and very successful Broadway star.
A legend.
She is a legend, okay? Is really, she's most recently apologized for some very controversial comments that she made about two other Broadway actresses, among them the most decorated Tony Award winning actor of all time, of course, Miss Audra McDonald. So the feud began when Patti LuPone complained about the noise from the Alicia Keys musical, which she felt was disrupting her performances. And in response, Audra McDonald posted emojis supporting Keisha Lewis, who had suggested that LuPone's complaining was racially motivated. And then, of course, she went on to say all kinds of things that were, and made snide remarks about both Miss Lewis and Miss McDonald, and the Broadway community went berserk to the degree that hundreds of people signed letters saying that her comments were demeaning, they were racist, and that she should be uninvited from attending. Patti LuPone, who was like legendary and would be like showered with accolades at the Tony Awards, they had signed a petition and a letter saying that she should be uninvited from the Tonys. So wrapping this up very quickly. So Patti made an apology. Okay. Mm-hmm. So she came with an apology. And I will read an excerpt of it very quickly. For as long as I've worked in the theater, I've spoken my mind and have never apologized, but that is changing today. I am deeply sorry for the words that I used during the New Yorker interview, particularly about Keisha Lewis, which were demeaning and disrespectful. I regret my flippant and emotional responses during this interview, which were inappropriate, and I am devastated that my behavior has offended others and has run counter to what we hold dear in this community. I hope to have the chance to speak to Audra and Keisha personally to offer my sincere apologies. And she said, I wholeheartedly agree with everything that was written in the open letter shared yesterday. From middle school drama clubs to professional stages, theater has always been about lifting each other up and welcoming those who feel that they don't belong anywhere else. I made a mistake. I take full responsibility for it, and I'm committed to making this right. Our entire theater community deserves better. Patti LuPone.
The fact that she said in all her years, she has never had to apologize. Never. Get out of here. Get out of here. Get out of here. See, you know what? You got to listen to what people say sometimes. She said she has never had to apologize for anything in all her life.
Yeah.
You poor soul. You know what? No, she said what she said and she meant it, and she's petty. And obviously she's not looking at the record, because Audra McDonald has 6 Tonys, about to get a 7th one, and she only has 3. Girl, sit down. Girl, sit down. You're jealous. You hate it. And these 2 black girls are doing. Keisha just won a Tony herself, right? Last year, right?
Yeah. And thus my title of my story, Petty Patty Got Popped.
Sean, did you want to say anything before I go into this next story about this person that I know you all are going to have something to say about?
No, all I'm going to say is that this is generational, and it's also another example of the white people are wanting to be able to.
Ooh.
You broke up.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say this is another example of some folks in the white community who are looking for that one white person who can do better than the black person. And Patti LuPone thought that she could be that person, but the role that she kind of made famous, well, she didn't make it famous, but she was one of the people who made it famous. That's gone for her now. That's what she's afraid of. She's afraid that Audra McDonald is going to erase her legacy of playing Gypsy Rose.
Petty.
Just go ahead and get out of here. Okay, well,
that part.
I don't know. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a live show, and I keep it real sometimes. It sounds like some corn is shucking somewhere in somebody's wherever they are. But I know it's going to stop in a few minutes. But I need to take you all back a couple of years about this story. Weeks after Jussie Smollett and the city of Chicago announced a settlement to resolve his years-long legal battle over his 2019 claim that he was the victim of a hate crime. The actor is disclosing the terms of the agreement and once again maintaining his innocence. In a lengthy statement shared to Instagram on Friday, Smollett revealed that he has agreed to make a $50,000 charitable donation to the Building Brighter Future Center for the Arts as part of the deal to secure the case's dismissal. However, he reiterated that the settlement is not an admission of guilt. And this is what he said, and you all can comment as you wish. Over 6 years ago, after it was reported that I had been jumped, city officials in Chicago set out to convince the public that I willfully set an assault against myself. This false narrative has left a stain on my character that will not soon disappear. Smollett began his post also by saying, these officials wanted my money and wanted my confession and something I did not do. Today, it should be clear, they have received neither. I think they did get your money because you are paying a $50,000 fine, maybe not to the police, but
what is that?
I don't know. But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna act like we don't hear it.
Yeah. I just think it's a really unfortunate situation. I think he's a talented actor. I've had the pleasure of meeting him. I think he's a really cool guy. I think the whole Hope thing was just really bad. It just was bad. Now, Brian Stevenson, whom we all know, for, equal justice and attorney and so forth, and author and all of that, he reminds us that each of us is greater than the worst thing that we've ever done. He did a really horrible thing, and I hope that he is able to really kind of come back with some level of grace. But
girl, bye. Just like
bye. Next. Are you shifting papers or something? What is going on?
What?
Are you shifting papers? Somebody shifting corn or something?
I have no paper right now, so I don't know what. Hopefully it stopped, but I have.
Take your earrings off or something.
The next story. Okay, here's the next story. Body.
Wait, is Sean singing body?
I'm a hot girl and I do hot. But anyway, so hot girl summer is here. Megan Thee Stallion, my girl, has just launched her new swimwear line called Hot Girl Summer. Her products are now available in Walmart and on her website, the Megan Thee Stallion. Swimwear, various items, tops and bottoms range from $16 to $34. This is my girl with the body who is, again, doing her thing, no qualms. She is making it happen. So I love this for her. To me, she is Wonder Woman. She has that body, and she's beautiful. And just go, girl. You're a hot girl for sure. Hot girl. Body yada 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 yada.
First of all,
hearing Sean do this,
Megan, if you can hear this now, you believe me, you need to call him because this to me is out of his comfort zone to the place. So you've done something, Megan. No, kudos to her for her
it's
brand.
true.
And you know what? Smart on her part because she is the brand and she's gonna sell it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
She's selling it. So
but you're absolutely right. Of the three of us, he is the last one that would be singing body yada
yada. Okay, but kudos to her, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I got us entertain. I don't even know if this is entertainment. Well, it will be entertainment for you. This is what I'm calling a hell nah moment. Okay. A white actress in San Diego, Annette Hubble, is suing the San Diego County Library after they canceled a scheduled performance of her one-woman show, Woman Warriors, which includes portrayals of historical figures like Harriet Tubman and Mary McLeod Bethune. According to various reports, the library's Diversity and Inclusion Committee told her it was not appropriate for a white woman to portray a black civil rights or black civil rights icons, even without dark makeup or offensive impersonation. And so naturally, she filed a lawsuit against the claiming racial discrimination, y'all. But let's be clear, this isn't censorship. It's accountability. It's cultural awareness. It's a long overdue acknowledgement that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Now, Hubble claims her performance was respectful and educational. She didn't wear blackface, she says. She wasn't mocking, she says. She was honoring these women, but honoring someone doesn't mean you get to embody them, especially not when your lived experience is so far removed from theirs, and especially not when choosing to do so in the middle of a library event with no collaboration or input from the communities whose stories you telling, girl. And I only have one question, Bobby and Sean. If you really care so much about this, Miss whatever your name is, why didn't you hire a black person to play it?
Because then it would have been a two-person show. It was a one-woman show.
Well, she's Bobby, you just like read me, and I loved it. Yeah, that was he said.
He said.
He said. Absolutely right.
One-woman show. Like, I do it all.
It would have been out of context, like her playing a black woman. Okay, but
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's just another example.
Troy said the caucasity.
Yeah,
Troy, that's good.
Yeah, just another example of a white woman or some white people, who, and again, I have some very close white friends who are so progressive in their thinking, or they think that they're liberal. And this is where they mess up, because they think that this is a progressive thing when actually they are showing their privilege and their ignorance.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think when you sit in positions of privilege, you don't realize that, as Alvin was saying, that just because you can do something doesn't mean that you necessarily should do it. No. It very much reminds me of the question that many young white people in particular question around the use of the N-word. Well, why can't I say it? Because I'm like, well, that's a whole nother discussion about whether or not it should ever be used. But in any case, just because you see a person of color use it, still doesn't, as a white person in America, and given the history and the context of your existence and your presence and the impact of your words, you still shouldn't say it.
Right.
And so, because people have said, well, what about Hamilton, where actors of color were playing historical white figures? But obviously, I'm not a fan of her necessarily playing Harriet.
And I'm not a fan of Hamilton. Don't care for it.
I loved Hamilton, and on tonight on this, he said, you have just raised another point, because I love Hamilton. But can you believe this? I went into it not even looking at color. I honestly didn't, and I've seen it 3 times. I was captivated by the story and the music. and the actors. And so I never, so Bobby, that is very real. That is very real. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank you all for staying with us. You know, we sometimes we get so newsy that we lose track of time, and we're almost finished tonight, but hang in there with us. We got a couple of things that we want to share with you all, but thank you very much. Yeah, that Bobby, you just hit something home. So thank you for that. And to wrap up tonight's entertainment, for those of you all who might go looking for her, you know, somewhere, or Googling her, Michelle Obama said in a recent podcast interview that Malia, her 26-year-old daughter, is trying to make her own way when it comes to her budding filmmaking career, which she involved dropping her last name, Obama. She is no longer using Obama as her last name. She is now using her middle name, Ann. So it is Malia Ann. Okay, so if you all go Googling her and your Google is not broke, she's not using Obama anymore. And the former lady conveyed her feelings about Malia's decision while appearing on Kate and Oliver Hudson's podcast, Sibling Rivalry, on Monday, explaining that it's in line with how her daughter wants to be perceived. And she said, I mean, it's very important for my kids to feel like they've earned what they are getting in the world. And they don't want people to assume that they don't work hard, that they're just naturally just handed things. And this is according to Michelle. She said they're very sensitive to that and they want to be their own people. And I'm feeling good about that. I understand that, but some people don't.
Well, let me say this. I get it, and I think she's wise and smart, but Janet Jackson, and you know how I feel about Janet Jackson right now, she's still on my off list, but she went through the same process. Okay, she was talked about removing Jackson from her last name. Okay, would it have changed anything? I don't think so. I don't see dropping the name is going to make a difference, because if you're going to work hard and be good at what you do, you can still keep that name and carve out your own path. Okay, it doesn't mean that it's nepotism. It doesn't mean that you got it just because your name or what have you, or your connections. So, I mean, I get it, but she's not the first to go through this process, and I think Janet Jackson proved that you don't have to drop your last name to have your own successful, thriving career.
What I will say to that, and it kind of hits home for me, it's like, you know, you have to find out what person you want to be and how you want to be perceived. And so as much as I, you know, thank you for sharing, you know, that about Janet, and it definitely makes sense. I think Malia is going to be a success. She's, whatever she does, she works hard, but the fact that people won't relate her to the Obamas, that's highly unlikely.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it's highly unlikely. But for her, it feels good. It's a sense that she needed to do that to feel good about her and her career.
Yep.
And for that, I respect her for that. Yeah. Respect her for that. So, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. And you know, we got one more thing. For those of you, we try to wait until you all have seen this or different shows and stuff that we want to talk about. But on our What We're Watching Now series, we want to talk about briefly about the Netflix series Forever. For those of you all who have seen it, I'm telling you, I thought that this was one of the best, most refreshing, fast-moving series that I've seen in a while. And my biggest kudo goes out to both of she's the lead actress.
Yes, Lovely
Simone. And then is Michael Cooper Jr., who plays her boyfriend with ADHD. I literally had to Google to see if he really had ADHD, because he played that part so well that I believe that he did, and he doesn't. I mean, from his body, the shoulders, it just made me believe that he, again, kudos to the whole story. And it kind of took me back a little bit when I was, you know, dating and young and stuff.
Well, I mean, I did watch it, and I did enjoy it, and I came to tears on some of the episodes. But what I thought was really great, most great about this, even though it was kind of based off Judy Blume, is that you had teenagers learning how to date. You had Black teenagers learning how to date. But what was sad was that as gay Black men and the Black community, we don't get to have that experience in high school. So, because most of us don't know who we are in high school. I mean, I did, but most folks don't. And so it was great to see that. And I hope that others get to see that, okay, your high school love may not be your forever. Right. But
they will always be your first. But that's a different F.
Yeah.
Oh Lord! Oh my God!
That's
come up very quickly. I think it's a great show, and I think it's well written. I love seeing the broad range of the Black experience that's represented there. If you guys know, by episode 5, I was hooked because they spent some time on the vineyard, and I saw places that remind me of my very happy place and so forth. But I think it's well written. I think it's well acted. I want to give a shout out to all those who are working on it and congratulate them on the fact that Netflix has already announced a season 2.
I'm so looking forward to. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, please go to Netflix. Netflix, they didn't pay us, but definitely we do like Forever, and that's a series that we suggest that you watch.
We are watching.
Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we are kicking off. We will have a performance next week for our Black Music Month in June, and we will have artist Kia Bennett will be here next week. She will also be performing at Blues Alley on August the 20th. So hopefully you all will get your tickets and go check her out. She is really, really amazing, and you get a chance to meet her next week and hear her perform. And we have a different kind of words of the week this week. Why don't we have straight pride? That's a question. Well, highlighted below in red are the countries where it is illegal to be heterosexual. That's why. See any red?
No.
No.
Yeah, no.
No. And Bobby, would you mind telling them why they don't see any red, Bobby, please?
Because there is no country in the entire world where it is illegal to be heterosexual.
See.
Okay. So
see.
We said what we said. That's why there's no straight pride, because there's no place where your love or your existence is threatened or illegal. So suck it up and happy June.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, thank all of you. First of all, thank you to my beautiful, beautiful panel. Thank you guys for a great show tonight. You know, I came on, told them that I was tired as I don't know what, but my Beyonce kicked in, and here I am. Okay, you know, her pants fell down in London. Did you all see that? She had a wardrobe malfunction, and they fixed it. She didn't move. She did not move. Please Google it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the show. Thank you all for joining us tonight and for weighing in. We love you guys, and we look forward to seeing you next week on a new live episode of He Said.
He Said.
Have a good night. Everybody be safe. Happy World Pride. Be safe.
Hope to see some of you tomorrow. I'm going to be in the parade tomorrow, so I hope to see some of you there.
All right now. Take care. Thank you. Have a good night.